Hi everybody, Norman Van Aken here with the Treasure Book series, continuing on with this book today. And this book is named The Four Seasons. In addition to this being a treasure book, this was one of the most mythic restaurants ever to open and operate in New York City. Yeah, New York City, the greatest food city in the world, according to many, including my friend Andrew Zimmerman. And he was just chatting today about Queens alone would be the world's greatest city, but I digress. The Four Seasons cookbook came out in 1980. I had been cooking for a few years, 8, 9, and when I actually, this book was wrapped up in a kind of a plastic shield today because it was just scaring me that it was going to fall apart. And I wrapped it years ago. And I know you're not supposed to really suffocate the books, but I was worried that on the shelves it'd get banged around. This restaurant architecturally was a gem, amazing. And it was known for years as being the ultimate center of power lunches, power dining in New York City. 2 gentlemen operated the Four Seasons, and they are here in this end paper, Tom Margatai and Paul Covey. Both these gentlemen actually dined in the restaurant I operated on Ocean Drive in 1992 and signed a book for me. I noticed today that my older sister, Jane Quinn Kondelik, granddaughter's name is Audrey Quinn Van Aken, so the Quinn is a family name. Her name was written on here, and so I guess Jane gave this to me, but it was some time ago. This was one of those books that came along at the exact right period of my life because I was just moving intellectually in many ways or professionally from being a line cook and chef to a person who was beginning to think about restaurants as a restaurateur. Of course, it was early on. I was still budding, just barely. First edition. I noticed in the acknowledgments today that Paula Wolfert is given acknowledgement here, and Paula stars in one of my treasure book series that is also out. And here we have the table of contents, which goes into it. But back to the power structure of power dining. I was chatting with a longtime friend, Melanie Young, just today. Just so happens, she was centrally involved in the initial days and years of the James Beard Foundation as a public relations guru. We got to know each other back in those years, and we were talking about the changes of American dining. Just today, I was coming back from errands, and she called, and I sat in the driveway with Janet, and for about a full hour, we just carried on because it'd been some time. And she was talking about what it was like to be escorted into the grill room and be given that power table, and how so many years later, she still remembers that rush. The foreword for this book is by James Beard. Many people think of James Beard or remember James Beard almost like this mythic person due to the awards, but he was the fundamental champion of American food. He got it. He understood America the way that Mark Twain understood the goods, the ingredients, the things out of nature that were the difference between ourselves and Europe. I'm reading one part of this here. This superb restaurant was planned so that it would provide the finest food and wine, so that its architecture would have an amazing grace, so that its appointments would be simply perfect. It was to be a backdrop for works of art by great creative masters like Picasso and Chagall. The dream, in short, was of a restaurant of peerless magnificence for New Yorkers, a restaurant whose food was splendid and whose very ambiance mirrored the seasons of the year, the Four Seasons. The recipes for the Four Seasons, the trees that grew indoors, the uniforms of the staff, the menu itself, all became emblems of the seasons. Thus, in the spring, one rejoiced in the first premieres, and one received the newly ripened fruits as they arrived by nature's clock. Beginning with rhubarb, then strawberries, followed by other succulent ornaments of spring like the first asparagus, which to him, is always a certain affirmation of spring's arrival. There were fiddleheads and baby lamb and capretto or kid, and all such wonderful things that defined the seasons, and I know so well what labor it was to create the menu for our restaurant of such awesome size every 3 months. Because for a long time, I worked at creating menus for the changes in seasons, and I know so well the troubles of trying to keep those items that were ever in demand and combining them with others that were purely seasonal. It was an exciting time of my life. This was before even we saw the birth of Chez Panisse. When we talk about one of the ultimate restaurants when it comes to exalting seasonality and ingredients. What have we here? We have a letter from 1994. Okay. And one of the distinguishing aspects of this book, and I won't have to go far, are the autographs that are in it. And this was not like this was autographed on this page by this particular person who was Mary Tyler Moore. This was done by the publisher, and they go throughout. I'm almost positive that, or it's very likely that this gave me the clue, the idea to do something with my very first book, which was to get people in the field, usually, to autograph that first copy. And I have that first copy from 1988 with so many wonderful people who, George Burns, so many wonderful people who are in that book. And someday I plan on, or maybe Audrey plans on, auctioning off that book for a great charity, Bess Meyerson. That will have to go back to some people. But when I was really working out of this book was in the early days of when I was chef of Sinclair's in Lake Forest, Illinois, the place where I first met, and Charlie came to work with me. Carrie Nahabedian worked with me. Susie Crofton, Celeste Zeccola, Mark Signorio, an amazing group of people that came through that restaurant. Here, let's close in on this. This was also very helpful to me as a chef who wanted to write menus. The Four Seasons Fall Foursome Dinner. This goes back to 79, and here you see the beverages, the drinks, the wines, and then you see the dishes. And this was very helpful. It really helped me begin to construct what I would eventually go on to do a great deal of. What is that? These are always in my books. Oh, there's Justin, her son, Justin Van Aken. Probably one of the first times, well, of course it would have been years after this book, that he had his name on his jacket or his shirt. So we'll just leave that back in there. And then here, I easily recognize this. This was from when I did a project with the University of Miami, the libraries, the collection. They asked for a number of us in town, chefs mostly, I think, if we would share our most treasured cookbooks with the library and leave them at the library in kind of a structured glassed-in table that people could come by and see and kind of get into why so-and-so chef or so-and-so chef chose the books that they did to be on exhibit. This was one of them that I had on exhibit, and this sat there next to this book along with maybe, I think there were 3 tables of my books, and this sat there so that people could see from myself the words that were written here on why this book was so significant to me. And I'll read this to you quickly. My mother our mother, taught me to love restaurants. Long before I ever thought of being a chef, she shared her love of dining out. She worked in restaurants her whole adult life, which made it all the more complete. She lived and breathed their vitality. The Four Seasons was a book that conveyed the power, electricity, glamour, and allure of a world that came to be mine as well. Mama was born and raised in New York City, and she was the seed for all of this searching and wanting to be able to bring people that ineffable magic of what it means to operate the restaurants on the highest level. And this book really does a great job. I'm sure that you could find a copy somewhere if you were of such a mind, and I hope you are. So this is my treasure book series on the Four Seasons. And I must say, there's a Swiss chef that ran this kitchen, Seppi Renkli, and he taught me a ton through this book. So Seppi, I don't know if you're still on this plane with us. I kind of doubt it because it's been a little while, but thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And I'll talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.